So welcome to step number 4. We are going to be talking about the law of equilibrium today. And the law of equilibrium says this: you don't take more of what you need, and you don't give more of what you have. And this law is really talking a lot about how the excess or the lack of love is like makes you take more or give more, because we give because we want to, we expect somehow something in return, or we take because we feel that there is an emotional emptiness that needs to be fulfilled. So when we play these dynamics of taking, or giving in excess or taking too much, then that creates energetic debts. So we don't only debt, like the debts are not only about money, but the debts can be paid in different ways. It can be paid by affecting, for example, your finances, or it can be also affecting your health, because a debt doesn't necessarily have to be paid with money. So energetic debts need to be paid because the system needs to be compensated. The system is always looking to compensate, to have this sort of balance. When there is no balance, then everything gets out of order. And like when the balance goes off, then something is not working properly. It creates conflict most of the times. So let's just give some examples here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about different things. I'm going to talk about the ancestral debts, because we must, or if our ancestors did something and couldn't be resolved, then some of the descendants must be paying for it, and they don't know it, because all of this goes unconsciously. And the system is always looking to be compensated. So if there is a debt from the past that hasn't been paid, then that debt, some of the descendants need to pay it, right? Who? That's what we need to figure it out. If we have issues at this moment with finances, maybe we should be taking a look to the past. Because sometimes it happened to me. I didn't know, but I really went deep in this field of the finances to find many debts that there's compensations and compensation in my system. And I used to work a lot. Like I have always been a good worker. Like push it and do because I like it. That's my nature. I like working. But somehow the money wasn't flowing. Somehow the money wasn't, or it came, but it was gone. Or it was just some sort of dynamics that I didn't understand about the money. And then when I went to my past, I found this. I'm going to give you the best example that I know, which is my family. My grandfather from my father's side, he used to work, or he had money, he was making money out of the mines, gold mines in Colombia. And it happened that he was living with my grandmother and the two kids, which is one was my father and the other one was my aunt. And something happened that their house got burned. So he lost it all. He lost all of his fortune there. And he never could recover from it. And so my dad kind of, my grandmother left him because he couldn't recover from it. He started drinking, and all of the situation that happened there, just like, it was like a turning point for the whole family. So my dad also, this is one loss that my dad had, right? Then the second loss was that his brother, my grandfather's brother, he had a lot of lands in Colombia. and he didn't have a wife or didn't have children on his own. So my father was his favorite nephew, and he was going to give his inheritance for him. It was supposed to be for him. But then he had a woman that was kind of living with him in and out, and he died. And all of a sudden, he died. He never did a will. So this woman took everything for her and for her son. So my father went through two different laws, financial laws. See, that was very important for me to know, because I was kind of being loyal to my father's stories of lost. So if he had this frustration because of what happened, and I was kind of living the same. This frustration, I said, I do, but it's nothing comes, nothing stays. So I had to see that the past was affecting me. Also, on my mother's side, my grandfather used to gamble. He used to gamble. My grandmother she would make money, and my grandfather used to gamble the money. So the money was gone. And he also wasn't a good administrator. Like, he used to spend, and sometimes he used to have a job where he was a administrator of these lands, and he didn't administrate that right. So that was also some money that wasn't properly managed, and that created a debt that he didn't pay, but maybe I was paying too. So I had all of these issues with my finances. I had to go to my past and see what happened back then, so I could liberate myself from it, recognizing what it was, and releasing these loyalties to those debts, those sort of financial issues and loss. And that's how it works pretty much. So we're going to talk about the ancestral debts, and we are also going to talk about, in a psychological level, in an ancestral level also, and also in a mental level, because sometimes we have these perspectives that, of course, they come by loyalty to our system, and that has to do with loyalty to have a mental, like, you're poor in your mind. Maybe you have money, but you think that everything is expensive, that you have a wrong perspectives about not having. So even if you have, in your mind you're poor. So that's another thing that could be from your parents, because maybe one of them didn't want to spend so much, and they had the money and they said that they didn't have it. So you as a child maybe live this experience of, well, I don't have, but you do have. So that somehow is taking you to not have, because it's a mental state that you don't have money. So that's another point that we should review, if it was learned because we learned certain things, or if it comes from your ancestors. That's the other option. We have to see where this state of mind, or where these ancestral memories can be affecting me today. So there is one thing about the ancestors, like the system. If you want to be successful, maybe, and your family couldn't be successful because they just think that it's impossible, because it is too hard, because it is difficult to make money, because money, just people with money can make more money. They have all of these perspectives. Maybe you are following that. Or if you want to break from it, because at a certain point you might be listening to someone that says, but it is possible. Say, wow, it is possible. But what happens, sometimes we want to keep loyal to our system. So because if you become better than the system, then it's like you betray your clan because you do it better than them. That's another thing that we need to take into account. And it is to free yourself from your system, or to do it differently than your system. Because once you recreate that, they can recreate it as well. So it's not that I can liberating my system because I don't like what they are doing or what they are thinking. But if you get to change that internally within your soul, within your mind, within your cellular level energy and everything, then you can recreate also the whole system, because you belong to that. You are one system. So that's very important, that every descendant or every person that gets to change one thing, the whole system changes that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how energetic depths can be created when, for example, we have a couple, right? Like the spouse, the wife and husband, or boyfriend and girlfriend, or whatever it is, right? A relationship. Let's say that we have a relationship, and that maybe this woman feels like, I need more from you. Let's put it this way. This is just an example. So she takes and takes and takes from him. So give me, I need more attention, I need more love, I need more care, I need more of this, I need more of that. And this person, what she might have is an emotional emptiness. So she can never get satisfied. And what's happening here is that she is creating a debt, and the person who's giving is also having all of his credits out of his pocket, right? Out of his heart, out of his pockets, out of whatever it is that he's trying to give this other person, is also creating the uncompensation. There is no compensation there. There is no balance. And we need to look at this situation in this sense. The one that is taking too much is because they both have an emotional emptiness that needs to be fulfilled. Because the one that is giving, why am I giving too much? Like, why am I giving all I have? Because what? I don't want her to leave. I don't want her to maybe leave and abandon me, for example. That could be one of the deep reasons or deep wounds this person might have, and these people is maybe trying to control it by giving. I'll give you more so I can be somehow expecting something. And this is all unconscious. This is all in an unconscious level. And people get confused about love when they give so much, because they have a tendency to think that if they do give so much, then they will receive what they need. And that is also an emptiness there. And the ones that are receiving the same thing, right? It's like they have this emptiness. And when at certain point, this is what's going to happen. Let's say that was the case of a woman and a man, and she's the one taking and this is the one giving. The man is the one giving. At certain point, this woman maybe would stay in that relationship even though it's not happy, because this person is never going to be happy, because nothing can satisfy her. And she stays there because she feels guilty to leave. I have a debt. He has given me so much. How am I going to leave him? And maybe they don't have that, maybe she doesn't feel passionate about him anymore, but she stays there because of the debt. Or maybe she leaves and she also will feel guilty of leaving such a good man, for example. So, and maybe the one who is giving will feel like somehow betrayed, maybe, like, I gave so much and she still left me. And all of these dynamics that get to play because of the lack or excess of something. And the something is love. We all are looking to fulfill those emptiness, emotional emptiness. And that creates a lot of dynamics that are, of course, unconscious, but they can create unhealthy relationships. And we cannot see it sometimes. We cannot recognize them. So it is important to see that why am I giving so much? Or why am I expecting if I give? And why do I need so much and nothing satisfies me? Because that creates an energetic debt. And that debt needs to be paid somehow. If maybe he's giving too much, at certain point, maybe he's out of credits. He took all of his credits and give them all. Maybe that's affecting his finances, or maybe that's affecting his health. At certain point, you give and you are expecting something that can create stress or anxiety or something that is paying for that uncompensation that is happening there within that system. Okay, that also can create something called codependency, because one needs this and the other one is giving that. So they both need each other. And to go deeper in this, the one who needs that is their inner child. Their inner child are the ones who have these emotional emptinesses, and they are looking to fulfill them. And that's why they play that sort of games. And people get confused thinking that that is love. Because love goes beyond. When we talk about like a relationship between a man and a woman, when the other one is next to you, that person should just add happiness to your life. If it doesn't add and you need something, if needs comes in the relationship, something is going to become conflicting, because it's not two adults playing a dynamic of man and woman, but it's two children. Or maybe this woman, when it's so needy, becomes a child expecting something from a man that could be her father. So she becomes a child, and the father is trying to fulfill this because she's looking for something that maybe is missing from her father, that she doesn't feel that she doesn't have or she didn't receive. And the husband is not supposed to be the father, right? So those sort of dynamics get to play here, and that's important to see. That is our inner child, the one that creates all of these dynamics. Okay, let's go deeper. Mar is not here, but I'm going to talk about something that she shared not long ago, and I think it is a good example. She shared that her grandfather he used to have a farm, and back then slavery was still happening. Let's put it this way. It was like long time ago. I don't really cannot recall the time, but she said that farm grew out of, or it expanded, or it flourished because they had still people working in the fields, and it was because of slavery. So by the time slavery came, they used to treat people in a not human way, let's put it this way. And many of them, they killed these people, or they were, the treatment wasn't really like a human treatment. And so that could also create a debt, because this farm was making money from people that was working the land, but that wasn't really getting paid, and also were not well treated. See? So those memories could be affecting the descendants. We actually worked this in a constellation with Mark. So that was very interesting to bring this sort of information and this memory. That was a perfect example of how the ancestral memories can be affecting you. Also, it could be that And this is a common case that maybe a brother in the family took the whole inheritance for all the brothers. And we already saw that case with you too. So that is very common, that someone does something and takes the whole thing and don't want to share it with the others. So that already creates a conflict, because this person who's taking everything, the other brothers and sisters, the other siblings, might feel betrayed, right? And also it's like, when they go out, they also are gonna have it's a lack of trust in others, because someone can betray me, for example. And I'm also, maybe since I have this fear, maybe I'm attracting people to betray me. So the money can be gone, in different ways because of this betrayal. There are many dynamics or many effects that one memory can have. We cannot say generally this is what happens, because each case is different. But what I'm trying to illustrate here is how one situation can affect the whole system and the descendants later on. And maybe later descendants down the road can have conflicts to each other for something. Maybe one is successful, the other one is not. Maybe one is making money, the other one is not. And maybe it's recreating kind of the same thing. So some sort of that can be happening again, or it's just different sort of results, let's put it this way, effects, because it's more an effect from the first memory that wasn't resolved back then. Let's say, what else? Disease. Let's talk about disease. If someone died, or like this, if someone in the family killed someone else, let's put it this way, and that person, it was a secret, let's put it like this. I'm just recreating scenes that I've seen in constellations. Let's say that this person, someone killed someone, and this person was a secret. So somebody might have to pay for that life. And later on, the descendants, or any of the descendants, might be paying, maybe can have an accident and die, right? Or maybe has kids and they die. Or maybe it's like one life can be paid with another life, Like, for example, what's happening now with the situation that we are living today along these days. One person died and he was Black, and then the other guy was white. So it's like a sort of compensating. Something is moving there that is more energetically too. It comes from memories from the past. We are only seeing what we see with our eyes, but it's kind of the same thing or the same scene that we have been living, because when one person is the victim of that sort of situations, then if it is not resolved or seen or included in the system, even the person who killed the other needs to be recognized and included in the system, because it affected the system. So it needs to be included. Otherwise, that or the victim or the perpetrator appears down the road on the first line of the system. It could be one that becomes the perpetrator or one that becomes the victim, and maybe they don't have to die the same way other people died, but they can have an accident and die all of a sudden. And people will say, wow, I don't know, out of the blues, this person died. Or someone can get sick, for example. That's another way to pay that debt. They get sick, they get a sickness, they don't know, out of the blues, something happened and they don't know that disease, but the person is dying. Or it's just different effects that it is important just to see how one death can be affecting the descendants if it is not seen, recognized, included, integrated, forgiven, acceptance. A lot of things can be done in a constellation. A reconciliation can be done in a constellation to change the effect. We need to integrate that. We need to see it and see that if we see it in another way, whatever happens is like this. For example, when you see a victim and a perpetrator, you kind of get to see that both have the same energy of the perpetrator. It's like somehow the perpetrator did something to the victim because the victim maybe did something to the perpetrator. So the perpetrator just, somehow responded in a more aggressive way. Let's put it this way. But they both had a sort of unconscious response that caused the whole situation to happen. So in constellations, we do a lot of reconciliations when we find this type of cases. What else? Cheating also can be affecting because it's a sort of betrayal. So that could be also affecting the pay, someone is got to pay for that. And those are pretty much the information about the law of equilibrium, that no matter what it is, the system needs to be compensated. And we need to create balance. And for that, we need to recreate a reconciliation. Like if there is, off balance, we need to come back here and say, I was taking too much, and you can give somewhere else maybe to create that balance. There are many ways, many things you can do, but in constellations, we recreate that in a very beautiful way, in a very loving way, conscious way. We need to understand that we do things unconsciously sometimes, and that can be affecting us, and we just don't know it. So, yes.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned the debt being created, when, let's say, someone keeps asking for more and more attention. So they're creating a debt for themselves, of course. Mm-hmm. But then what's happening with the person that the attention and stuff is being extracted from?
Yes, that's what I mentioned. That person is giving all of his or her credits to this other person, because somehow that person is not giving to him or herself. Mm-hmm. So there is a lack of self-love. Why do I have to give so much? What do I need from this person? I'm giving so much because I'm expecting at a certain point to give me back. Or I'm really giving, but if I'm giving in a balanced way, I wouldn't give it all, because I can see that person is not willing to compensate. And then I can say, I'm giving, I'm not receiving. And no, I'm not talking about the interest of receiving, because some people get confused. Oh, but expecting is not conscious. But no, it's not about expectations. It's about receiving energetically. You can feel that. You can feel when someone, by doing some actions, you feel compensated.
Mm-hmm. So going back to how you opened this lecture, you said you don't take more of what you need. You don't give more of what you have.
Yes.
Can you elaborate that slowly so I can understand it better?
Yes. I don't take more of what you need. It's like when I consciously know this that we talk about today, then I just don't take more of what the other ones can give me, because maybe it's a need that I have to fulfill, and the other person is not going to have enough to fulfill my own need. I am the one that can fulfill that need, because the one that has that need is my inner child. And by now, mom and dad are not gonna give me that, but I can give that myself.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to give that myself, I have to work a lot of the mom and dad issues that I had from the past to be able to give to myself.
Okay. And so the same thing then, don't give more of what you have. You would say something like, maybe let's say a person has a lot of anger inside. They might give a little bit of anger in a dispute with someone, but they really could totally unload all tons of anger because they have like almost infinite supply because of their wounds that they're dealing with.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. So if they gave more anger than what was appropriate for the situation, let's say, then they would actually create a debt that would have to be repaid of them maybe being on the receiving end of anger down the road sometime. Back to karma again.
Exactly, because what I spoke at the end, like the perpetrator and the victim,
Mm-hmm.
if you have so much anger, I'm going to just apply all of my anger. But then that's going to create another debt, because if I kill someone, then my system is already attached to that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe someone down the road is going to be killed. If I kill someone, maybe someone down the road is going to have to be killed. Let's put it this way. Or it's gonna go through a situation where it's gonna take them maybe to die or to something. So yeah, it's a compensation. See, it's all about compensation because the system itself compensates. There is no punishments or there are no guilty ones here. It's just a sort of energetic compensation.
Okay.
That works here. So we need to be aware of that. That's the most important part, to see that there are no guilty ones here. It is all about our emotional emptiness, wounds that need to be healed, and those emptiness that need to be fulfilled. And if we work on those, then we can consciously take care of our inner child that at certain point can get so mad and commit a crime,
Mm-hmm.
for example. And that, when we take care of that, there are many ways that you can see yourself and say, I'm having anger because I have anger at my dad who used to punish me. For example, I'm just giving an example here.
Right.
So instead of releasing this anger with the wrong person, right, then I can control myself and say, I have anger. And it's good to feel anger. Like you can feel it and say, because we are human and we are working on fixing things ourselves. We need to reconciliate ourselves first. And that is a process.
Mm-hmm.
That is a process. That doesn't happen from one day to the other. But if we take the journey and we decide with intention to change that, we can.
Okay.
So that's the very first step to start changing that, and just noticing that we came here to do a process of healing our system, yes, but ourselves first. Because once we do that for us, then we do it for the system as well. And we can liberate ourselves and we can liberate our system. And our descendants as well. Hopefully to recreate a new world. That's the peaceful way to do it without having to be talking too much, but just having these experiences where you can reconciliate in a loving way, in a conscious way, with good comprehension. It's more than understanding. It's a deep comprehension that comes from your soul that heals.
Yeah, I think that these wounds, I think these are equivalent to, from a yogic perspective, samskaras, which are really like lessons, life lessons, holdover lessons from maybe past lives, some kind of almost like a program that we're here to learn and master. So
yes, we all have the same scars as our parents, and that's our next class. Actually, next class we will be talking about the 5 wounds.
Okay.
The main 5 wounds that we all carry, and 1 or 2 of them can be the stronger ones in us, because we have a couple that are more, it's like stronger than the other ones, because we have them all, but usually we come to heal 1 specifically. And most, if you go deeper, our parents also have them, or our grandparents also experience some sort of the same situations, experiences. So we will talk about that next week. I'm not going there because then we can go deeper, but that's what we're doing next week, I'm sorry. So yeah, that's our next step. We need to go and see our wounds and reconcile those. We need to find what it is that I came to heal and what my inner child must have felt that is still affecting me today. If we don't take care of this inner child, then it's hard to change those sort of conflicts that we are living today. So that's our next step in our journey to the soul. All right, so we're gonna leave it here, and I'm gonna stop the recording, and I'll see you next week. I hope anybody that listens to this video gets like some insights and decides to maybe come next week. It's going to be very interesting to talk about the wounds, our inner child wounds, and how we can heal those through family constellations. Okay, I'll see you next time around.